The day my husband transferred 12 million naira into my account, I believed God had finally remembered me. For 14 years, I had stood beside that man through everything. When his business collapsed, I sold my jewelry to keep food on the table. When he lost his job, I started selling groceries from our front porch just so we could survive. When everyone mocked him and called him a failure, I defended him. There is still greatness in my husband, I always told them. Many people laughed at me. Some even advised me to leave him. But I stayed. Slowly, life became better. He started another business, and within a few years, it became successful. Even after he became wealthy, he never forgot the difficult years we shared. Or at least, that was what I believed. Yesterday morning, while I was preparing breakfast, my phone buzzed. I picked it up immediately. Then I froze. My bank balance had increased by 12 million naira. I thought it was a mistake. Before I could even process it, my husband walked into the kitchen smiling. "Did you see the alert?" he asked. I looked at him with wide eyes. "What is this money for?" He kissed my forehead. "For you." I laughed. "No, seriously, I'm serious," he replied. "You've sacrificed too much for me. It's time I started taking care of you." I couldn't hold back my tears. Before I recovered from the surprise, he took me outside. A shiny black SUV was parked in front of our house with a large red ribbon tied across the bonnet. I screamed. The neighbors rushed outside to see what was happening. My husband handed me the car keys. "This belongs to you." I hugged him so tightly we both nearly fell. That evening, I drove around the city. He bought me expensive clothes, perfume, jewelry, handbags. We ended up having dinner at one of the finest restaurants in town. He held my hand across the table. "I love you," he whispered. "I don't know what I've become without you." Those words melted my heart. I slept that night happier than I had been in years. Little did I know, my happiness wouldn't even last 24 hours. The following afternoon, he returned from work much earlier than usual. His face looked pale. He didn't greet me. He didn't smile. Instead, he sat quietly in the living room, staring at the floor. Something was wrong. "Honey, are you okay?" I asked softly. He looked at me with eyes full of guilt. "There is something I need to tell you." My heartbeat became faster. "What happened?" He rubbed both hands together nervously. "I've made a terrible mistake." I moved closer. "One mistake?" He couldn't look me in the eyes. Then he finally spoke. "I've been seeing another woman." It felt like someone punched me in the chest. Before I could recover from that shock, he continued, and his voice broke. "She's pregnant." Everything around me became silent. I could hear nothing except the sound of my own heartbeat. I stared at him, hoping he would laugh and tell me it was a cruel joke. He didn't. Instead, tears rolled down his face. Then I finally understood. The 12 million naira, the expensive gifts, the brand new SUV, none of them had been given out of love. They were gifts from a guilty man trying to soften the pain of the truth he had been hiding. Just then, someone knocked loudly on our front door. My husband looked terrified. Then he whispered, "I think she's here." The knock on the door came again. My husband froze. He looked at me, then at the door, as if he wished he could disappear. "I will get it," I said quietly. When I opened the door, a young woman stood there. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were swollen from crying. One hand rested on her stomach. She was heavily pregnant. Before she could speak, my husband rushed over. "What are you doing here?" he asked nervously. She ignored him and looked straight at me. "You must be his wife." I nodded. She lowered her head. "I'm sorry for coming like this, but I don't know where else to go." My husband quickly interrupted her. "This isn't the right time." She burst into tears. "I've been chased out of the apartment you rented for me. I have nowhere else to sleep." I slowly turned to my husband. "You rented an apartment for her?" He couldn't answer. His silence told me everything. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Then the young woman said something that shocked me. "I didn't know he was married when we started dating." I looked at my husband. He couldn't even deny it. She continued crying. "He promised to marry me. He said you two had already separated." I closed my eyes. The lies were bigger than I had imagined. He didn't only betray me, he had deceived her too. That evening, after she left, my husband locked himself in our bedroom. He cried, apologized, even knelt before me. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," he said, "but please don't leave me." I remained silent. He continued begging. I will end everything with her. Before he could finish speaking, his phone rang. It was her again. He rejected the call. She called again and again. Finally, I spoke. He looked at me nervously. "Answer it." I said, "Answer it." He picked up. Her voice was loud enough for me to hear. They've given me only today to leave. I have nowhere to go. My husband covered the phone with his hand and looked at me helplessly. For the first time since he confessed, I smiled. A strange, painful smile. Bring her here. He looked surprised. What? You heard me. If she's carrying your child, I won't allow your baby to sleep on the streets. His eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve you. No, I replied calmly. You don't. An hour later, she arrived with her bags. I welcomed her into my house, showed her the guest room. I even served her dinner. She couldn't stop thanking me. My husband watched everything in disbelief. He believed I had accepted the situation. He believed my kindness meant I had forgiven him. He had no idea that something inside me had died the moment he confessed. That night, while both of them slept peacefully under my roof, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. I made myself a promise. I would never fight over a man who had already chosen someone else. I would stay, not because I had forgiven him, but because I needed time. Time to put my life in order. Time to protect everything I had worked for. Time to make sure that when I finally walked away, I would never look back. Little did I know, the woman I had shown mercy would soon repay my kindness with lies that would turn my husband completely against. The day my husband chose to live her lies instead of the woman who had stood by him for 14 years, I knew my marriage was over. From that moment, I stopped explaining myself. Every day, the young woman had a new story. She insulted me, gave me bad food. She wants something to happen to my baby. None of it was true. I barely spoke to her, yet my husband defended her every single time. If she's complaining, then you must have done something, he would say. Those words hurt more than his betrayal. I realized the man I loved no longer trusted me, so I became quiet. While they were busy enjoying the life they thought they had built together, I was quietly rebuilding mine. I reopened my business, met with my lawyer, gathered every document I needed, made plans for future that no longer included my husband. Months later, baby was born, and my husband celebrated as though he had won the greatest prize of his life. He spoiled the young woman with expensive gifts. He even handed her one of his ATM cards. You will need this whenever the baby needs anything, he told her. The account linked to that card contained millions of naira. He trusted her completely. What he didn't know was that she had been living a double life from the very beginning. Unknown to him, she had a boyfriend in another state. Almost every week, she secretly transferred large sum of money from that account to the boyfriend. Whenever my husband asked why so much money was missing, she always had an excuse. The baby needed treatment. I had to buy supplies. My mother is sick. And he would believe every word. One afternoon, while she was bathing the baby, her phone kept ringing. She rushed out to answer it, but forgot to lock the screen. My husband wasn't trying to spy on her. He simply wanted to hand her the phone. Then a message popped up. Baby, thank you for the money. Once I finish building this shop, we'll finally start our new life together. I can't wait for you to leave that foolish man. My husband froze. His hands began to shake. He opened the conversation. Hundreds of messages, pictures, voice notes, bank transfer receipts, plans for them to run away together. Then he saw another message that made his heart stop. Don't worry, he will never find out that this baby isn't his. The phone slipped from his hand. When she came back into the room, she knew everything was over. She grabbed the baby and tried to explain, but it was too late. Before dawn the next morning, she disappeared, took the baby, took the ATM card. By the time the bank blocked it, millions of naira had already been withdrawn. My husband searched everywhere. Her phone was switched off. The address she had once claimed belonged to her family turned out to be fake. She had vanished without a trace. 3 days later, he received another shock. DNA test. He has insisted on confirm that the child is not his biological child. He sat alone in the hospital and cried that he had destroyed his marriage. That same week, the lawyer came with divorce papers. He begged me to stay. I refused. This time, I signed them with a smile. There were no arguments, no tears, no regrets. I wished him well and quietly walked away. A year later, I met a kind and respectful man. He never asked me to compete for his attention. He simply loved me honestly. We got married in a small ceremony, surrounded by people who truly cared about us. Not long afterward, God blessed us with a beautiful baby boy. The laughter that had disappeared from my life finally returned. As for my ex-husband, His business collapsed under heavy debts. The stress affected his health and he became seriously ill. The little money he had left was spent on hospital bills. He called relatives he had ignored years ago. Some couldn't help, others refused. The friends who had once surrounded him disappeared. The expensive cars were sold. The big house was gone. One afternoon, while driving home with my husband and our son, we stopped at a traffic light. I saw a thin man standing by the roadside, asking passers-by for something to eat. It was my ex-husband. He looked older than his years. Our eyes met for a brief moment. He lowered his head in shame. The light turned green and we drove off. I whispered a quiet prayer that he would someday find healing and make peace with the choices that had brought him there. Months later, I had another piece of news. The young woman who had deceived him had also been abandoned. The boyfriend she had secretly been sending money to disappeared after taking everything she had managed to save. He blocked her number and never returned. Left alone to care for her child, she started selling vegetables in the local market just to survive. In the end, everyone lived with the consequences of the choices they made. I'm happy now and I thank God for the quick intervention. Don't forget to follow this page, like, share, and leave a comment in the comment box. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.